Should be able to hear and see me. Got a sound check so we can start. Yes, no, maybe. Anybody? Can you hear me? Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. All right, let's begin. All right, so starting from the top. So we're looking at, inverted hammer at the top of the move over here on ES for the weekly candle. After like this week-to-week opposing hammers, right? So we had the inverted hammer 2 weeks ago. Then we get the hammer without ever taking out the high. Then we do take out the high this week, but we totally fail, and we end up closing actually lower than the high of last week. So that's a rejection of highs. And when we come down into the daily chart, you see that we've already, hit this level of supply back here. It's just a wicks against the wall, against the all-time high type stuff. And we still have air over here on the way back. Based on what we're seeing over here, that this is topped out. We've come into the 240 demand zone. That was the middle over here. And we got a pretty nice pop out of that on Friday. I think we're going to actually end up seeing another lower high here and probably a break back down into this level over here. Okay. And down here we'll probably have a really nice long, but for that, there's just air underneath us. I think the trade this week will probably be short. We'll know, when we're going to start to backtest some of the supply that's over here on the 60 right now. Any lower high over here on this chart, or on the 60 chart when we go down there, opens up all this air. A huge move down for us over here into this demand zone down underneath. I'm going to open this chart up. And that's what I'm looking for this week. I think I'll pull back into that level. Okay, so you could see all the air. We'll have a pretty good fight down there. We've been out here a few times. This is the level that made the high, so we'll get a bounce out of that. I think we're going to see one kind of little lower high. It looks like a little head and shoulders potentially developing, right? We'll see how that plays out. But I think if that does come on the chart, we're going to want to start the shorts up here someplace looking for this as the target. All right, so, potential for, that is 50, 60, maybe more, actually 2840 to 2800, yeah, about 40 points or so, 50 points depending on how far the bounce goes for now. And that's just about it for now. Obviously, there's totally very powerful fresh demand over here, this wicked-looking doji that's been there for a couple of weeks now. The trade here will be, watch this. We can take the longs out of this level. Based on the 240 chart, even the 60 is still up, so if you want to be in a long, you could be long. Just watch the supply I'm about to show you for a potential, pullback. That's going to open up this 2800 level. So let's take a look over here on the ES. You'll see, there we go. So you can see on the 60, we're just trending up there. This is just one sell-off. We had topped out over here and just straight, and then we just pull right back down. Looks like we hit the demand perfectly on Friday, right into our little demand zone back here. You can see the prior highs. We touch it right there, and immediately we shoot out. So we're coming into some supply. There is supply over here. I drew it on the 15, and then there's this thing over here, right? So if we get a lower high either here or here, so we're starting to think about that 240, turning into that head and shoulders, and then it's retracing all this air on over here. So a fairly decent short. We'll see what happens after we get down here, but that's what I'm looking for. If you want it to be long, or you are long from Friday, so you just got to watch out for this little supply that we're coming into over here. If we're able to get through this zone, then we'll make new all-time highs at this point. So there's really not much anything else left up there from the ES as far as supply is concerned. Let's look over here on the 15 for a second and point out what we're looking at, right? So this is wicked looking supply over here. It's got this little gapping thing inside over here. You can see where it was. You see all the prior lows that were in here. We broke down, we tested it right here a little bit from the outside, and then we broke down away, right? And there's this one other level over here that's been hit like 6 times already, but it's made lower lows every time. Okay, so the lower highs and lower lows is still valid until it makes the higher low, which it hasn't done yet. So there's opportunity here if you're looking for the short. This one did flip its trend into a downtrend. So the 15 at least is down for now, and if you're looking for some counter trend shorts, I'd be looking in this area again because it's only, sort of a setup for the 240 where if we do get a lower high someplace in this range over here someplace, we're looking about, talking about all the way back to 2,800. So it's a really nice move down. So keep your eye on that sucker for this coming week. Look at NASI. So this one also, you could see, it's starting to fail over here, looking like the beginning of a double top over here on the daily chart. It needs to get through this supply. I'm sorry, the demand's right over here. You can see that on the 240. We haven't made a new all-time high now. It's been 2 weeks or so for the NASDAQ. Last time was up here at the inverted hammer, and then we had this continuation, with the push up, but we really didn't, we weren't able to close it up there. We closed it almost all the way back where we started from, pretty much. And therefore, we're looking at this 240 chart over here. Right? This has air down into 7,200. This is, for all intents and purposes, like a level on level over here. If you're looking at it on the 60, but it looks like it's starting to get touched. Right around here, there's some 60 supply I'm going to show you. That's, again, the same idea what we're looking for the potential for this to create this lower high that'll open up this trade all the way down to 7,200. That's over 200 points for NASDAQ, so that's pretty rough. A nice looking potentially short trade over there. If we want to be long someplace, well, it looks like it might have been hit already, and now the question is, well, are we going to break through this top over here? We'd have to get above, 7,500 really to see if it's really going to run anymore. So I'm leaning short over here. I like this little. Take a look at our 60 chart. There's a really nice looking level over here. We've touched the beginning of the first level of demand. All right, this thing over here. It's touched right there, and then we bounce back up. So we're sort of, again, in the same supply zone. That's the better one. Any lower high over here, again, is going to put us at least here, and then probably all the way down into this 7,200 range. Underneath this, we retrace this big air pocket that's sitting on the index chart. Most likely that's going to happen this week. I think we're going to see a continuation on a little bit of the weakness going on over here. Let's look at the 15. So this one's got a couple of questions for myself, actually. So I just love this little tiny doji that's hiding up here right before 74.90. This level was sort of the question mark. I'm not so sure about the distal line only because it's, pick up this or this or this, and then it starts getting close to here. So this level here is more like, okay, let's sit and watch this thing and see what happens in this 74.70 to, 75-ish, 74.50 at 66 or so, into the 74, 75, call it range. That area is more, let's watch this zone, see what happens over here. This one totally could, turn price around as well as it is. It's made the lower highs and lower lows out of that zone. So there's a couple of levels here that I think NASDAQ is going to have difficulty getting through. And more than likely, we're going to make a lower high somewhere over here. And again, that's opening up that huge, short 200 points plus for the NASDAQ down into 7,200. So, we're talking about maybe even potentially close to 300 points for NASDAQ down. 74.75 down to 7,200 is 275 NASDAQ points. A huge, huge move. So look for that. I think we're going to see something like that probably early in the week. This is like the first two days, I would say, Monday, Tuesday, maybe beginning Wednesday type of thing, and then we're into that level down there, and then we'll start to talk about probably getting a bounce out of some of those levels underneath us. But that's where we're looking at for now. Lower high formation coming, I think, on the 60 is what we're going to see. So once it forms, we're looking at a really nice sell-off. Okay? So keep your eyes out over there. Let's take a look at crude on Friday, having a very nice day. Just a little, I think, offsetting some of the selling pressure that was been going on. At the end of the day, the weekly candle was just continuing to build the bear flag. All right, we do have a lower high and lower low this week. So the weakness is still on the chart. There's so much air under here. Okay, so we did get a big engulfing candle on Friday. If it should get a continuation, which it might, I don't know, it could do a V-bottom over here back to 69. We'll have to watch and see what happens over here. There's a couple of levels of supply prior that I think are probably going to end up turning this thing back over again. And I think we're going to start to see the sell-off again back, and then at this point the target's probably somewhere around 64 and change. So the question is now, do we start shorts yet? Well, on the 60 from Friday, there's a lot of strength in that move, and you can take a look, and we've got so much air up here on the on the 60 chart that I can't really pinpoint where it's going to turn around. It's a tough call, right? We were basing back and forth over here. We broke down out of the range, and then we failed. We came back in, so we break out the other side, right? And now I'm looking at all this air over here. Could it get all the way back over here? Sure. I mean, there's nothing really in the way. At least from the 60-point perspective, there's nothing there. We'd have to sort of see what it does early. There are a couple of supply zones on the 15 over here that I've been looking at, and if we do get some kind of hold onto those levels, well, the trend is totally still down. This is only a bull rush on Friday, right off the lows. No question about the trend being down. This is just one move straight up off the low, right? So shorts are totally allowed over here, even from a 15, zone, no question at all. So let's get over there and take a look at the 15, and then I'll take some questions. Actually, I think if anyone has any questions, feel free. There we go on the 15. So we're looking at, this is the supply zone I think we drew out last week. This one over here, right, that we're getting pretty close. You could see on Friday, the moves up were not that really strong. Very choppy. We're touching back into every prior smaller time frame zone. Supply here, supply here, supply here. I mean, this thing is not a free run. Could it get all the way back to 69? Sure, definitely could. But I think that if it should get that far high, it's the V bottom thing on the on the 60 chart, and then it's going to get crushed, because you have to imagine how much supply is sitting inside these, and how much demand it's going to take to get through these levels. It's more than likely that one of them is actually going to create the lower high anyway, and it's going to just turn over. And then obviously under here, this is all really junk. This is nothing. A whole move up on Friday was shit. It's garbage. Every level touched the other level. There's nothing strong, nothing bright, nothing that really anything. I marked off the one over here that started it all. We took out this thing. There's a little doji over here. You can see that it's got a couple of lows in there, and then where it really started from, basically 66 is the bounce. So we're talking about $1.75 of a bounce up, $1.70 or so. That's about it. If we look at the fib, it looks to be to be about at least 50, maybe even the 61 there. Hold on, let's take a look. I didn't look at it before. Where's the fib retracement over here? Let's take a look. Here's the high. Let's call it from here where we started selling off. There's our low. It's down here. That was the original low. Actually, we sold up all the way to here at that point. Now, come on. Stay where I want you to. That's what happens. There we go. All right, so we're right at the 50% fib. You could see that, and our zone is actually the 61.8. Take a look. All right, so this is 50 right here. You can see that 50. 61.8 is right inside our zone. Bingo. This sucker right here, the dojis. So yeah, it's going to cause trouble. Actually, the 76.4 is our next zone. Perfect. I mean, so it's not getting through this thing. We're going to see a lower high sell off, and then the question becomes, on the way back, does it break the bottom? If you see that it's really pushing down and breaking through all this crap, expect this to get taken out. Look for 64 and change. Okay. So potential for really nice shorts over here on the crude. Okay. Alrighty. Keep going until someone has a question. So far, I guess it's pretty straightforward. Let's look at gold. So gold, I put out a tweet on Friday. The fact that the dollar was just such a bull move on Friday is something I haven't seen in a really long time. Really shooting up, just running stops like crazy. And gold didn't break down at all. Gold really actually rallied at one point. It was green on the day. The dollar was flying. Sort of telling me, I think we're building a really nice bottom over here. We still need to take out some of the highs. We haven't done that in a bit. We could see that on 40, and when I go down to 60, you'll see we're just playing ping pong. I mean, it's pretty self-evident really on the daily. If you look at all the highs for the last, whatever it is, 10 days or so, you see they're really right around each other. The lows, no question, they're right there. And we're just going sideways, sort of, treading water over here, waiting for the move. But, the fact that it didn't collapse on Friday with the dollar really exploding, sort of telling me it isn't going to collapse. If it was going to collapse, it should have done it on Friday when it had the opportunity to do so. And the fact it was barely red, it was really all green for most of the day. It ended up turning around, I don't know, noon or something like that. Look at that. You could see here that it's just banging, banging, banging forth. I think we're going to see an explosive move to the upside. I was waiting for it last week. It didn't come, but the breakdown didn't come either, even though the opportunity was there. So that's sort of saying that I think the bottom is sort of in over here. Right, the 60 is just so clear. It's just where the supply and demand is. I mean, wicks on either side, we're just banging around inside this thing for the last week or so. And again, once we break out of the range, it's just going to be an up move, I think we're looking for, because the down move should have happened and didn't, which means it's likely not going to happen anymore. So it's more than likely long. I think we're going to look for the longs this week. Little demand under here, under the 15. You could see it again. It's just the middle, basically the middle of the range over here. Should this turn into a higher low again? So you know where we're holding over here, over here. If we turn this around and make the higher low this time, instead of coming back right to the demand underneath, we should be able to pop through the top. So keep your eye. I'm leaning long. I don't see a great entry just yet. We're waiting for something to develop, you know. But the bias is long and the target's at 1250. So let's talk about the dollar for a little bit. So I've been calling for dollars top for, I don't know, quite some time now over here. I really expected this level over here to hold. It didn't, obviously. It was totally wrong. No question about that. And we actually pop up and end up inside the supply on the weekly chart, the top of the monthly supply, the top of the weekly supply after this little breakout. So the question becomes, well, is this, you know, a valid breakout for us? Meaning, looks as a bull flag over here, and then we break to the upside, and the continuation would actually put us even higher. It would actually fill this little head and shoulder thing that I put on my chart like in March, I think it was sometime, really like 6 months ago. And it's right now, that's totally a potential. I mean, there's air above us. You could see it on the monthly chart. If we're able to break through the supply on the weekly chart over here, all right, you know, next level is at 97.8 up there. Okay, there's we're working on the top of this wick over here, and there's just air right above us. Right over here, you could see it. There's nothing in the way from this where we are to, you know, 97 and change at least. And then really maybe all the way back to this thing, the 100 level is where that you know, monthly right shoulder would start to form. That being said, I cannot imagine that we're getting there at this point. And I'll tell you why in a second. But I'm going to jump to the bonds, sort of tell you why it's this. It just doesn't make any sense. Okay, so this, I think, was just a really wicked stop run, bull rush. I think we're going to see a massive reversal out of this zone over here, and the bonds are sort of hinting that, right? Because we jump into the bonds for a second, and we look at what's going on down here, and I was telling you that we should have been seeing this rally in the bonds coming, and it actually started on Friday. Okay, you're getting the inverted head and shoulders over here on the weekly chart. Look down here. Right, we get a wicked reversal pattern over here with the evening star candle, and then the retrace, and that's sort of telling us that this is what's expected at this point. You know, the economy is not as great, although the Fed is starting to hint that maybe they're not going to raise the rates as much as everyone thought. This is looking like a test coming back to the 149, which means lower interest rates, which means not a stronger dollar, right? A weaker dollar. Right, when the rates were going down, that's when the dollar was going up. But now we're talking about this thing, you know, this thing, we're talking about when the rates are going up. I mean, the bonds are going down, right? Over here, the bonds are going up, which means the interest rates are going down. So that's going to weaken the dollar, okay? The dollar shouldn't be all the way up there with the bonds doing this kind of a move. What the hell was that about, right? It doesn't make any sense. So I think we've seen the top over here. I think what we did on Friday was just a ballistic move. It was a euphoria type of thing, and I think we're going to see something really wicked out of this reversal thing coming over here. So should we break out of this zone again, and I'm very possible, you know, that I'm wrong, and that, you know, the dollar for some reason is going to go counter logic, It's just going to keep going because there's euphoria going on and people are just being ridiculous and they think their dollar is a safe haven. For some reason, I can't figure out why they think that, but they do. Then this is a possibility. We run all the way through the zone and end up at 98 or something. I really can't imagine it. But we are in an uptrend and all that fun stuff. So if you're talking about trading lower time frame stuff, there's no reason to be short dollars, right? But when you start to talk about what's going on over here and what we've been doing and where we're holding and where the zones are, what we're looking at over here, I can't imagine much more upside potential for the dollar at all, especially because the bonds are talking to us over there. That being said, okay, let's take a look at some of the currencies that we're trading, that we do trade actively against the dollar, right? So the euro is down inside its weekly demand zone. It's breaking away from this wedge that we had on our weekly chart over here for we're counting them like 10 weeks or so. It's finally breaking down. It lands right inside the demand zone, the doji over here. Okay, it's looking like a head and shoulders, but then this would be the beginning of the neckline. We don't know if this is going to break down or not, right? This is where it should start to hold. So again, a wicked move on Friday, down, 1+%, 1.25%, something crazy at one time. Look where we're coming back into the demand over here on the monthly chart. You can see that it's a level right over here where we started, this little breakout over here. Right? So I expect us really to start to hold the bottom down here. It doesn't mean we're going to get long just yet because we're in a downtrend on every freaking time frame. It just means that we're expecting that this sell-off is coming to an end. At some point, when this thing starts to hold itself down here in some 60 levels or something, we may think about getting long at some point this week. I want to just show you that if I'm wrong and this level does break down, the potential is disastrous, because if you look over here on the daily chart of the euro, so this is a bull wedge, right? Bear flag wedge, right? The wedge at the lower highs, there's the bottom, and we break down. Well, the measured move of the staff over here puts us into this gap at like 108. Okay, so I mean, obviously there's a ton of demand along the way, but if we keep going, this is what we're looking at, a breakdown into this gap area under here, pretty much. Right down over here, all the way back prices, what the hell, that is May or something like that. I don't know. Is that going to happen? I don't think so. I think we're going to end up calling this a fake out over here at some point, and this is going to rally back up here and end up breaking through the other side. But again, until it does that, there's no reason to be long. We have to trade what's on the chart. The chart is telling me to be short right now. It's just that it's in levels of demand that I'm expecting a pretty violent move over here. So let's take a look on the 60. This is where we're going to place it. We're going to sort of take our trades off of for now. Clearly in a downtrend, very fresh supply, big levels of supply are in the way. Until we hit one of these and make a higher low, there's no reason to be long. Zero chance. You take the short off the supply zones. That's it. And you wait for it to come back into the bottom and see what happens. Okay? That's the trade for now. If something changes, I'll let you know. But I'm thinking that sooner or later, at some point in this week, we're going to start to see something that that is going to be the opposite of what we saw last week. Okay, so it's out there, but for now, we cannot take any longs because the chart is just not allowing it. We are landing in demand zones everywhere. Okay, there's demand on every time frame right underneath us, from the weekly all the way down to the 15 chart. There is demand sitting right underneath us. So the shorts are not from where we are; they're up higher. Should we rally over here into supply, that's where we'll take the shorts. Right? Don't take breakouts underneath the lows over here anymore. We're in higher time frame demand zones. No breakouts anymore underneath the lows. Up higher, sell supply until we stop breaking the bottom. That's the trade for the euro. Okay. Right, if you have a question, feel free. And otherwise, we're going to keep going, running through this puppy. Okay. Aussie dollar looks like crap. Again, all the currencies will look like crap this week. Liza, hold on. Hi, Liza. What's doing, honey?
Hey,
now you're kicking yourself in the ass that you didn't hold on to that Thursday short, huh?
Well, I took a little short too on Friday. But
okay, good.
I have a question on gold.
Yeah.
The fact that its price has sat in that price range
Mm-hmm,
for such a long time, how do you read that? How do you interpret that?
Right. So it's telling us over here.
Gold gets really good demand, you kind of would see it kind of just come to a big rally,
Right.
but it hasn't
Yeah.
done this, so I haven't been
Has
trading.
not done that at all. You know, it's sort of, you have to say right now we're in balance in this area. Anywhere in between here, the market's really in balance over here. That's the price. That's the reason I'm leaning bullish only this time is because of what happened with the dollar and the gold not collapsing. So I think what we're seeing over here, it's also leaning me to believe the dollar move was like a fake out. You know what I mean? It shouldn't have. It should have. If it really was going to stay over there where it is, why the hell did gold not collapse? Why is gold trading the same thing it was when the dollar was 1% plus lower? What the hell happened? Right? So something's wrong. You know what I mean? It's broken. The interest rates are not pointing to that dollar move. The gold is not pointing to that dollar move. Something's wrong. So the market is in balance over here. I think we're going to start to see the dollar collapse, okay, from where we are, just because of all the signals that we're looking at, and that will really make gold get out of this range. That's what's going to happen. Wait for gold to move. The dollar's not helping you because you would have gotten short already.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, so you don't read it as it's building a base. It can go either way.
The base is here. The base is here already. Look at the weekly chart. It's been, the daily chart. It's sideways for 2 weeks already, 3 weeks even.
It's like a big base.
Huge base.
Yes.
And again, it should have broken down last week on Friday with that move of the dollar. Why did we not break the bottom over here on gold? What the hell was that about? Right? Right? It doesn't make sense. So this is the bottom for gold. I'm pretty sure at this point that that's what we're looking at. We just need to see confirmations by taking out some of these highs. If you look carefully over here, we haven't really gotten past, 25 in like a week or more even, right? We haven't gotten through this level. We need to see gold up here someplace so we can really call this a bottom. All right. So for now, it's still wait and watch. I'm leaning long because the bottom didn't break. That's really what it is. Just there isn't a place to get into the trade yet, right? But if you're looking for a trade in gold, I wouldn't be looking short at this point because the short should have happened Friday and it didn't.
But if it breaks out of that range,
if it breaks down.
Out of that range higher, it's still a valid short to take the 12.
Absolutely. Fresh supply above is no problem. Take a short, no question about it. We're still in a downturn. Yeah, that's correct. That is correct. Okay. First target for the long is right here. Absolutely true.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, next. So that was that. Let's take a look at the Aussie dollar, which is related to gold anyway. Jeff has a question actually first. Yeah, Jeff, what's up, buddy?
Doing, Joe? Hey, it's not really a question, just you always ask us if we disagree with you, but on the dollar.
Please do, guys, tell me.
Well, this is just my view, and I'm not a fundamental person at all. The charts say, where it's going, but I think that dollar can go to 110, 120. I mean, with the Treasury putting
I happen to agree with you. I'm not saying it's not. I just don't think it would. Again, the chart is also saying, I showed it to you, that it's very possible that, we get to this thing over here, right? I pointed that out right away. I agree with you. The 100 and plus right over here would create an inverse head and shoulders. And that is the next level really up here. If you start looking at a higher time frame, that's where the supply is. So if it's able to break the zone, I don't disagree with you. My gut feeling is telling me it's not going to happen. But am I wrong? It very well could be wrong. I was wrong that I thought it was going to break down from here, and I was wrong. So I could be wrong again. I don't know. But yeah, I see it. I see what you're saying. You're saying right over here. Totally possible. Totally possible. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it's more unlikely. Bonds are not showing that. What happened on Friday with the bonds? If the interest rates are going down, dollar shouldn't be getting stronger. At least not this kind of move. So something's messed up. You know what I mean? The math is not adding up.
Oh, no. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah. So I see it. The chart does say that it could get there. I'm not saying it can't. I'm just saying I think it's not going to get there. Again, I could be wrong. I will know. We'll watch it. What happens this week? But my more likely scenario over here, I think, is that we saw a fake out move over here on Friday. We're going to see a big retrace coming this week. And if we should break above the highs of Friday, ignore me. We're going to the moon. I agree with you. You know what I mean? So cool. But absolutely, I appreciate the comment. Thank you. All right. Next. Let's take a look at Aussie, okay? And anyone feel free to disagree with me also anytime, no problem. Sometimes I might even agree with you at some point. So here we go. The Aussie dollar, again, breaking down out of the range over here not a massive break, but an engulfing candle on the weekly chart. Really bearish looking, right? Over here, you can see that. We had this whole, bunch of weeks going sideways, beautiful little dojis, unable to hold the lows. We break down. We got stuck inside of demand over here. I'll show it to you in a minute. And then it just paused over here. There's a massive engulfing candle. So any continuation to the downside won't hold us. We'll just, push all the way further over here. But again, with the dollar doing what I think it's going to do, and then gold again shooting, sort of holding itself up, I don't see the Aussie really breaking too far down more. Let's take a look at the daily chart over there, because it's in that demand zone over there. It's a weekly. I saw it someplace sometime. I'll zoom out a little bit. There's a breakdown from that range. And any continuation, oops. Okay, yeah, sorry, I don't know why my demand zone got erased, but it was there before. It's right over here. See the little gap thing over here, right? And over here. And then proximals over here. And that's really where we landed, right over there, right? So we touched the outside of the zone, outside the band. After all this basing going sideways on the daily chart for 2 months, it looks like since the beginning of July, end of June, and a breakdown. So we would need a continuation for this. Again, there's usually going to be a back test of the break anyway. If it's really going to break, it's going to roll, it's going to push up and make a lower high over here for us again, especially after it's been, sideways for that long. So we're going to look for that little bounce and see what happens over here. Do I want to be short Aussie dollar? Again, not in this level. I'm in the monthly demand. This is it should show you the daily demand and all that fun stuff. So a bounce back into supply over here. We take the first short. Definitely, no question about that. And then we watch what happens over here as we come back to create the higher low or break the bottom. But the short is sitting right there, 73, 80-ish or so, okay? Let's take a look up here. We landed inside demand on the 60. And there's a supply zone. It's the same level on the 60 chart. You can see where it is. Let's open it up. Boom. 73.80. Prior lows. Little level on level with the doji business going on in there. This little failed hammer action right there. It's a supply. It's air on the way up. So if you wanted to try like the the V reversal bottom, that's always a potential trade. You're allowed to trade that counter trend. If you want to take the longs, there's a lot of air, but obviously you have to get through this sucker over here. We're allowed to sell the first level of supply. So this is where we're looking to be joining the shorts over here, right? Over here on the 73, looks like 74, 73.40 of a level for the shorts right there. And then if we don't break the bottom, we pull back and make a higher low, expect the V reversal out of this sucker. So, okay, we just watch what happens over here with the Aussie dollar. I think we're going to see some nice action. Pounds, what happened to the pounds this week? Let's take a look. So like all the other currencies, it did sell off. It landed in monthly demand. It landed in weekly demand. It landed in the daily 240. The demand is there. It's clearly in a downtrend on the daily chart, that's for sure. On the weekly chart, this is actually, the monthly chart, this is actually the place where it would make its first higher low. So this is an interesting level to watch over here for pounds. Right over here, right? This demand zone holds. That'll be the first higher low after we rallied up off the bottom, right? So something to pay attention to. On the weekly chart, we have to watch and see if this level is going to hold for us or not. Do I want to take the longs? Well, not just yet. We have to watch and see some of the smaller time frames turn over if we're interested in the longs. Otherwise, again, we're taking first levels of short on the 240 for sure. Definitely want to short up there, no question. As far as the longs are concerned, well, looks like it might be doing a V bottom already. It's looking like it's actually starting. You could actually see it on the, I'll show it to you in a second if you don't see it yet, but it's looking to me at least that's what potential for a bounce back right to the supply. You'll see the 50 average right inside that level also. So if you want to take a long, this is the exit. At this point, this is looking like it's held the bottom. It's sort of like you can see the higher lows over here. We've already been up into this zone right over here. We didn't break the bottom right there, so this should be breaking out into this level. It's even clearer on the 15 chart. you would take the short out of that first level of supply on the 60th, or anyway, right? That's the trend trade. The counter trend for the V reversal, pretty clear. It looks like it's working out fairly well. Take a look there. Right, there's the bottoms, there's a little inverted head and shoulders, boom, boom, boom. This level goes up, hits the supply, pulls back, makes the higher low. We start rallying out of it. It looks like right at the end of the day, they just stopped out any of the longs, and they close right up there. This is more than likely getting up, into a little V reversal at this point. This level, and then a pause here maybe, and then, back over here. The short is fantastic up here. If it can get to that thing, bam, definitely. Definitely. Look at the zone. Prior lows, supply over here. It's a prior low over here, over here. Beautiful zone. So that's something to pay attention to. So for now, you want to try longs out of the bottom over there. You don't really have that much room left on the 15, it looks like. So not the greatest of trades. And then definitely want to be short up here at the 2850 and change level. Okay. Canadians, where are we? Who's got a question? George. Hey, George. What's up?
Hey, Joe, you're moving too fast for me.
Sorry,
Can we go back to Aussie dollar 60 for a second?
Absolutely, no problem. Aussie 60, go ahead.
I had my zone at 73.69 to 73.81 because
73.69 to 81. Okay, so you're talking about a little bit lower down. So
flat
this is
spot.
like level on level on level. You're looking at this thing over here.
Right.
And I'm looking at this doji over here.
Yeah, I included that doji.
Over here. What'd you do with this, though?
I didn't take that. I took the lower doji and that flat area. Which also
so you took this zone, but this is sitting right over here. You see this middle right here?
Yeah.
See this
but
over here,
okay.
over here. Right, so you're looking at something a little lower down. And when it comes to Aussie dollar, the ticks are very small. Like these zones are really close to each other. You can't really, draw both. It's either pick the zone that I picked or pick the zone that you picked, but you can't have both. You might want to marry them, maybe make the zone a little bigger. This is only 10 ticks as is. It's $100.
Well,
so
I'm just curious why you chose that higher zone.
Yeah, so I chose the higher zone because of what happened in this zone over here. Right here. This is the level that made the prior high right here.
Okay.
Right? And when it came back, it created this failed hammer. Good. And then it was testing underneath us over here, banging against this low.
Yeah, that's what I included in my zone.
That's what this is. So this is just the higher low, right? This is the higher zone. It's level on level. I'm not saying you didn't choose a zone. I'm just saying that this is it's level on level. It's level on level, and I took the higher one. That's all. I'm ignoring the lower one. Okay, but there's something here. They're just too close together. I like the higher one better for sure. Again, because this is where this happened.
Okay, I appreciate that.
No
Thank
problem. You got it. Okay, cool. All right, so that's our Aussie. Let's go back to, we looked at pounds. Let's look at Canadian. So Canadian on the shorts. I think we traded the shorts on Thursday when we traded together. Was looking pretty good for the short side. Look at the weekly candle. What happened over there? It's pretty freaking ugly. Okay, that's not just a rejection of the highs, which is what it did. It freaking engulfed the whole week. All right, so we ended up back inside daily demand at the end of the week over there. You can see that back to the doji zone over here. On the 240, we've now created lower high, lower lower in a downtrend. And we still have some more air underneath us. Not only that, the news on Friday just wicked right back into the supply zone. Look at that. And then, boom, new lows. So this is not looking good at all. Forget any longs for now. We'd have to say we're going to look for, continued shorts for Canadian dollar here. Up here is the 60. That's the news wick that I cut off, in case you're wondering about that. All right, it did run right into the supply that was up here, this doji candle. That was inside the base drop. It touched the outside of the doji on the news. It gets totally destroyed after that. So I just drew the supply zone over here. All right, I'm just cutting off the wick, the news wick over there. There is definitely supply in that area. We've hit some demand down here. It looks like I actually have to take that level off. We may have traded through it a little bit. So shorts for now, at least for now on the Canadian. This is in a downtrend on the 60, breaking away from this big top up there that we had working on for a couple of days prior week. So there's the supply zones that we're looking at for getting into shorts over here. This one over here, again, I just cut the wick off in case your eyes are wondering what the hell's going on. So the proximal line and the distal line is because of the top of that wick, and this is wicks against the wall over here. These wicks, and I just chop this off. Okay, that's the supply I'm looking at. We're in a supply zone over here, which already actually started to sell off a little bit, but we got a nice pop at the end of the day. So we might do a little V reversal into here. If you want to try the longs above here, that makes sense to me. You'd have to get out right over here, because that's where you want to enter the shorts. Okay, so keep your eye over there. What's going on inside this zone over here? You can see what it was prior back here. You can see it was tested right over here. And then, clearly held after the news event as this new supply where it broke the prior lows. So that's what we're looking at over there. Canadians on the short side. Okay. Yen, fairly strong on Friday, considering what was going on with the dollar. Right? We see that we ended up closing the week pretty strong. Closing near the highs of the week, actually at the high of the week, right? Is the close, which is slightly below the high of the week. So the high was made on Friday, we've been channeling up pretty much all week. Last week, you could see it over here. It is building the higher low for us, right down over here. This is a higher low now. We haven't flipped trend yet. All right, to get the trend up on this chart, we have to get through this pivot right over here. So here's the higher low. Higher low, and then we're channel. We need to break the pivot, which we haven't been able to do. We got into the zone on Friday. The zone is actually from back here. This is the origin of the move, and then we sell off and make a higher low. So we expect that it should be breaking because of multiple reasons. First, because it has the higher low under it, and then because we're basing underneath the zone for almost the whole week. Chop, pop. We should see this coming out of here. Okay, so the longs on the yen are starting to look a little bit better. Here's the 60 chart. And there's the big little potential cup and handle forming over here, right? You can see the massive cup back over here. And then this whole thing becomes the handle over here, right? And a move. Pretty big move over here. If this is what's going to play out, it's going to be a huge move out of this area. The supply zone over here, you can see again the origin was back here. We've hit it over here, the higher low. We've been basing under it all week. This should turn around again. We're making all these higher lows under here. We should be able to break out of this thing up into some higher supply. Okay, so longs for the yen this week, I think, are going to be the way to go. Let's zoom out a little bit and see what kind of targets we have above us. Okay, there's a whole shitload of air up there. Look at that. Delicious. So we've got nothing above this zone. We've hit this zone multiple times. We just analyze this zone, understanding that this thing should break. And then the supply zone is, it's up higher. So it's up here where the fresh zone is. So somewhere above 9,100. So a really big long starting there for the yen. That looks really nice. Okay, so longs it is. Okay. We've already flipped into an uptrend over here, right? Even though this is channeling on the 240, on the 60, these are pivots, all right? And these are higher highs and higher lows. So pretty strong moves. Nice little double bottom action over here. Then we make a new high, another new high. So this thing is making higher highs and higher lows. It's ready to go. Okay, longs for yen. Let's take a look at the nat gas. So had another strong week, no question about that. A beautiful move up. If you look back to the weekly chart, this move started down over here on the engulfing after the doji, right? The doji at the bottom of the move, and then boom, 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 right? Massive move over here. The engulfing candle on the daily signals this move for us, and now we've topped out over here. Got to some serious supply. It's 240 supply, it's 60 supply. It's inside this, this doji candle over here on the weekly chart, right over here, this thing. So it looked to me like we should start to see some pullbacks over here. The trend is up, no question there. Let's get back to the 60. Up trend over there. And we've just, 2-3 days now. Looks like 1, 2, 3 days of just hanging out up here. Are we going to make this lower high? I think we are. Pen over here. This lower high, I think, is going to turn into a lower high. We're going to end up over here. You'd have to get long at the first level of demand, back under here, 2880, and then see what happens as we get back to the top. Okay, the longs are in play for now. We're in an uptrend with buying pullbacks, so that's what we're looking at for nat gas. Copper doing nothing the whole week, I think. Yeah, a bunch of sideways shit. Had one nice little pop that got immediately reversed, and the question becomes now, can we turn this into a higher low over here? That's the question. Right over here on the 240 chart, we had this nice strong bottom, right? Triple bottom down there, and then we rallied up. We made this little, right over here, rally, drop, base, rally, strong high. And then we get the real sell-off, right? This is the real selling pressure that kicks in after the move off the bottom, and now we're based out. So can we turn this into a higher low or not is really the only question that matters, because if we don't, it's just going to break down again out of this to make the new lows. And if we can make it out of here, then maybe we can, we can start to rally. And notice also that copper did not break down on Friday with gold rallying like crazy. Right? Copper barely moved, didn't break down. So, it moved a little bit, but not what it should have done. It's holding the 60 zone, right? It's holding in between our demand and our supply on this 15 area over here. You can see that pretty clearly. So it's a waiting game for here. And if this starts to break to the upside over here, then we're talking about getting through this middle. We'll have like a little double bottom action over here. And, we're talking about getting back to this zone over here, right? Up here. So a pretty big move. You can get there, and then we'll see, because that's actually going to create this 240 higher low. That might get us going back in the up direction. So copper might be turning around the corner. We'll watch it early this week, see what happens there. This is the one that I want to really get to today, because I think there's a beautiful swing setup starting over here. Soy, for me, I think is the swing trade setup right here. Let's talk about it. Okay, so we had the USDA report, whatever, and they get their nice little pullback. Notice I've been talking about this for the last 3 weeks, that this is a rally off the lows with no higher low, right? And we needed some selling pressure to kick in, and we needed to see it hold, so that we can start to turn around and start to do this. This is all kinds of air sitting over here, ridiculous amounts of money sitting waiting to be made. So notice what happened on the daily chart. There's our low back over here. There's the rally, up, 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 one directional. Here's the selling pressure kicking in now. Boom. I'll be coming back, and we're testing right off the doji over here. Okay, this nice little this thing. I think I drew it out last week in the webinar. I don't remember, right over here around the 860 area. Look at it over here. You can see it on the 240 chart. So here's the big back test. Boom, right into the zone. We stop right there. If, it's a big if, but I don't know. We'll see. If this thing starts to turn around over here and creates a higher low, we're talking about the higher low on the weekly chart, on the daily chart, on the 240 chart. We're talking about starting the move that goes from here back through the air, all the way back to 10 plus. Tremendous move. When you start to catch at the beginning of a trend in the grains, this thing will just go and go and go and go. So really, really pay attention to soy this week. Even if you're not a soy trader, pay attention to this thing and see if it starts to hold the lows, starts to rally. I'll tweet it out when I see it, but this is the beginning of where I'm starting to look for the swing trade to start. Okay, because we want to see this level hold. We want to see this thing show the higher low. And now I've got all this air. It'll start with a V bottom, massive move, because this was all one candle. It's the USDA news, right? It's you see it on the 15 chart. The whole thing was just boom, right down, right? It's like, whew, right into there. We hit some demand in the lower time frames. We start to watch this thing form the bottom on the lower time frame. We'll get a nice V reversal, and once that, if we can close a strong candle this week on the weekly chart, we're going to call for the swings. I mean, really big move. You know, something huge, back to 10 plus. So we're talking about, you know, $10,000 a contract for soy, something crazy. So keep your eye on this thing. I'll try to tweet it out if I see the bottom starting to form in the lower time frames. But I love this move that it made. It's exactly what we were looking for to see if it can. It's coming to test the bottom. You can see that, right? I mean, you see this little rally, base, 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 base. Then get the engulfing candle over here. We're coming right into that area. And if we're able to hold that thing, create the higher low here, we're going to rally back through here. We're going to take out the top of this thing on the daily chart, and then we're off to the races because the top of the daily chart level is this thing on the weekly chart. There's air. There's nothing there. Just boom, straight up. So really, really nice move coming for soy if we're able to hold these lows down over here. Any higher low under here, you know, above here, I'm not under here. Any higher low above here will get us into this trade, okay? So that for me is the most important trade for the week, something I'm really looking forward. So as soon as it comes out and I see it, I will let you know, but that's what we're looking for, okay? And the other thing is this was the one I talked about last week, and it finally happened on Friday, was the move out of this zone, right? And we talked about this one, we telegraphed this one, I think, almost perfect, off the supply zone, right? We were looking for this level to sell off, make a higher low, which it did, and then the higher low started, and as it was going to break, it did. We ended up exactly where we thought we would get up into the supply at 144. Now, you know, we're looking at this thing over here on the weekly chart, on the daily chart, and what we should see is a smaller time frame pullback and then a move up through here. Because with this down here on the weekly, anyway, we did it before when we were talking about the dollar and everything, but this is signaling this move. This is a higher low. We're holding an inverted head and shoulders down here on the weekly chart. That should bring us back to this fresh supply, 149 plus, which means there ain't going to be no more interest rate increases. Not this year, at least. So, you know, well, at least that's what we're starting to see. If the bonds go up into that level, you can forget about the Fed raising anything at all the rest of this year. So take a look over here. And there's our 60. And there's the supply zone. I mean, perfection, right? We get right up into the zone and pause back. So now we've got some demand underneath us. There's a level over here. Actually, I can draw it. I think I put it on the 15, but it's here also on the 60. Right here, this is where you want to start joining longs. If for some reason it pulls back into this zone, consider yourself lucky and take a long out of this level over here. Right there. Boom. 143. Boom. Right there. Right, it's just touched there, made a new high, came back into our supply, and started to sell off a little bit at the end of the week. So watch over here for the longs. The target at this point now becomes 149. So a tremendous move for bonds. So the 15 chart out. There we go. Okay, so yeah, there's even another zone up here. It was a little close to current price. I didn't want to draw it out, but there's something over here. Right over here, right? It's just landed right over there. And we're looking for the longs. So that's what it comes down to. Bonds, long, buy to pullbacks into demand. The bonds are looking like they're about to start ripping. Okay? If anybody have any questions, feel free. Otherwise, I'll see you guys all on Wednesday. We'll have a regular webinar Wednesday. Any questions? Who's got a question? Somebody does. There we go. Who's that? Hey, George. What's up?
Joe, a question on the gold. You were vacillating between 121 and 122 XN. I see that your different time frames have both. Was that intentional?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah. So what happened this past month, just now, is my smaller time frames have 122 because I see the little time frames over here, and this one I never got around to changing yet, only because that 121. The lower time frames look like shit. It was spotty as hell. So I changed it a day early over here. It sort of fixed the problem. I just never got around to drawing the 60 yet. But I think I'm gonna have to change it eventually. It doesn't really make a major difference when it's only one day off, other than the day of rollover. That's really the only day it's an issue. So yeah, I'm going to get around to it. But yeah, 122 was definitely better this month. So I started at 125 and worked down to 121. And now it looks like this month 121 was no good. So I needed to trade on it that day, and I changed it to 122, and I never got around to fixing the 60 charts.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. Anybody else have a question? No. All right. All right, guys, have a great week. Enjoy the rest of the Sunday. I'll see you all on Wednesday. Pay attention because there's a couple of good trades coming out this week. All right, I'll send them out in the tweets. Ciao.